Thierry Mugler. He was one of the most important fashion designers of the modern era. For 30 years, collection after collection, Mugler deployed his avant-gardist vision of fashion. Under his impetus, a new woman appeared on the runway, and she was smolderingly powerful. Reshaped at the end of the 1970s by a structured silhouette that was instantly recognizable, she had a tiny corseted waist, large shoulders, and an emphasized bust and hips. He thought he would become a ballet dancer, but the young Mugler ended up transcribing his love of the body through designing clothes. In 1973, with daring and perseverance, this perfectionist created his first collection, Café de Paris, and 2 years later organized his very first runway show in spite of minimal financial means. Extravagant, sexy, and sometimes irreverent, his fashion conjugates with the superlative, writes Nathalie Bondil, Director General and Chief Curator at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Oversized hats, neon wigs, aerodynamic busts, tight-fitting dresses, gleaming corsets, cleavage, but all features that define the Mugler style. With him, femininity is in your face and assumed 100%. From his first total look of 1979, his pieces guided women towards an emancipation through the affirmation of an armored body that was undeniably resistant to any social affronts. Beyond the silhouettes, his virtuosity is also illustrated by his use of unconventional materials, by adapting rubber, chrome, resin, and plexiglass to the curves of a body. The designer marked a very distinct turning point in 1980s-90s fashion, which gradually became more fantasy than wearable. His keen eye fused a liberated sensitivity to the world of science fiction with pure futurism. With Mugler, fashion became art. Yet after 2 decades of prolific success, the designer retired from fashion in 2001, presenting his last ready-to-wear collection. Tired of the increasingly frantic pace of the fashion industry, he shifted his focus to creating shows and designing stage costumes. To better understand the influence of this fashion utopian, we'll look back together at 7 of his most iconic collections from 1990s years. For his Spring-Summer 1992 Cowboys collection, he sent an army of bikers down the runway all dressed in leather, from a corseted biker jacket with fringes to thigh boots attached to the waist, 20 years before those imagined by Vetements with Manolo Blahnik. As well as leather, cowhide, and cowboy hats, Mugler also explored a material that hadn't until then been much exploited in luxury ready-to-wear: rubber. One of the most memorable pieces of the collection remains his Harley-Davidson Bustier, complete with handlebars and wing mirrors, a nod to the earlier bodywork Bustier of 1989. This piece would become famous thanks to George Michael's Too Funky music video, made by Mugler himself from images of his runway show. In 1992, Thierry Mugler was authorized by the Chambre syndicale de la couture to join the very closed club of Haute Couture as an invited member, and present his first couture collection. At the time, Haute Couture was suffering from a distinct lack of modernity and daring, and was tiring the press and the buyers. For this collection, The designer chose the splendid setting of the Ritz swimming pool, which also gave its name to the collection. For the event, he invited some 20 seamstresses to his atelier to work with him on the creation of unique pieces, articulated around the corset. The result was a collection of remarkable precision, where the unerring sense of detail exalted the creativity. His immediate success earned the designer a permanent Haute Couture membership that lasted for 10 years. Following the sensational runway show Fall-Winter 1995 at the Zénith, Thierry Mugler had to celebrate the 20 years of his house in serious style. So, he chose the Cirque d'Hiver for a very complete and highly spectacular anniversary show, revisiting the most impactful figures from all his collections. Among the notable creations were the Gynoid robots and the chrome outfits, resulting from an intensive collaboration with Jean-Jacques Urcun on a female android, the first design made with Delcros for the superstar Diana Ross collection of 1991. Starting with a metal bra, the outfit gradually became an all-in-one made of metal and plexiglass, an invention that has since inspired countless designers from Alexander McQueen to Dolce & Gabbana. Another memorable piece from this collection was the famous sheath shell dress, which we saw being sported by Cardi B at the 2019 Grammy Awards. If the style and the madness of Mugler were to be illustrated by a single collection, Les Insectes Spring-Summer 1997 would undoubtedly be the most appropriate. The designer surpassed himself by imagining a world where women were fused with insects, adopting their characteristics on a human scale: carapace, antennae, blacked out glasses like a fly's eyes, and the gracious wings of a butterfly in scintillating colors. Another remarkable piece was the tire suit, made of rubber and leather thanks to the designer Abel Villarreal, an umpteenth blending of women and cars. With this daring collection, Thierry Mugler continued to surprise and, along with the newly arrived John Galliano and Alexander McQueen, contributed to making the Spring-Summer 1997 collections one of the most exciting haute couture seasons. Continuing from the previous collection, Les Chimères Fall-Winter 1997 transformed the women insects into fantastical creatures, inhabiting the dreams of the designer. Thierry Mugler translated this imaginary faraway land, with a gaze turned towards the East and its aesthetics. Thus, we find pieces with influences from Eastern Asia. The absolute highlight of the show was the Chimera dress, in which the model Adriana Carambeau became a hybrid creature, a winged mermaid in all the colors of the rainbow. Conceived by Jean-Jacques Urcun and the corset maker Mr. Pearl, this remarkable creation is today estimated to be one of the most expensive haute couture dresses in fashion history. Thanks for your watching. Your Valerie.